Southern Free! Live from the shed! Southern Fried Soundstage, you know we rock hard. Baby, out here, that's the only way. We're bringing all the good times. Southern Fried Soundstage, if you want to get crazy. Out here, that's the only way. We're bringing all the good times. All the good times. Southern Fried Soundstage. Southern Fried Soundstage. Southern Fried Soundstage. Southern Fried Southern Fried Soundstage. 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 Southern Free!
Yeah, belt it out. That's right. The Southern Fried Sound stage. Welcome to the show. This is part 3. It's not the third show. It is part 3, though, of Def Leppard. This is episode, or I believe 6. 5 or 6. I think 6. Anyway, neither here nor there. It doesn't matter. But if you put those things online, which we do, you're trying to figure out where in the heck, what episode is it, so people know. I usually try to get that on the title so that you kind of know where we're at. So we've been in a series for Def Leppard, and we started out with Tesla. We went to Def Leppard, and we have covered the first 3 albums. And as we left the last show, we were up to the tragedy, obviously, of Rick Allen, his recovery, the band trying through a lot of alcohol, a lot of spits and starts, Mutt Lange walking away out of exhaustion, just worn out, not able to go. Then Jim Steinman comes in. The band tried to work. Mutt Lange eventually comes back in the picture, but they were basically scrapping everything. They only kept basic parts of songs. And he obviously was taking them on a journey where they wanted, and they wanted it as well. It was just frustrating to get there to something iconic. They didn't want to make Pyro 2. Of course, the third album, Pyromania, they didn't want to do Pyro 2. A lot of bands were already basically doing that. They were sort of copying success. It made them millionaires. That was a very successful album. We talked about that the last show. 4 years almost 4 years away, though. That's eons in the music world or entertainment world in general. You're gone that long, people have forgotten about you. The only thing that even goes anywhere further. I mean, I would say there may be other examples. Would be it would be the Chinese. The Chinese song, the Chinese Democracy with Guns, and them being gone, changing band members and all that, and then coming back together. Most times that doesn't work, though. That model doesn't work when you go away that long and you come back. And Leppard was deep in debt. Let's face it, they were deep in debt. They had to sell 3 million albums to break even on that tour. It's really, nobody really expected them to do it. The thought was, and we'll get in that in just a minute, sell as many as you can, get back in the studio, make as many songs as, get some. They had stuff left over, not a lot, but they had some stuff left over that they used on B-sides, like Tear It Down, which showed up on Adrenalize. They had some working songs and ideas, but they had poured so much into this album, Hysteria, that there was not a lot. And of course, the way they're recording note by note, the meticulous way that Mutt Lange, especially with them at that time, was working and recording that album, very frustrating. So he's away. They are, he's been their mentor, their coach, the unofficial sixth member of the band. The guy can sing, he can play, he's a producer. A working genius. I mean, it's not the easiest thing. He has been a part of some of the most successful albums in rock history and continues to do that. Maybe I don't know if it's on that scale, but up until recently, he's been a part of some very highly successful albums. We can think of Foreigner 4. We could think of AC/DC and some of their iconic albums. Mutt Lange was a part of that, and there are many, many more that Mutt Lange was a part of. John Robert Mutt Lange, of course, everybody calls him Mutt Lange. But he definitely was a fit like a glove guy for Leppard. He was gone. So they had the disaster of going with Jim Steinman of Meatloaf fame, and he has his place, obviously, in rock history. It didn't work for Leppard because they were interested in making something iconic, generational. To be up there with the greats of the greats and really kick their career down the road to where they would be around for 40, 50 years, which is exactly what has happened. Whether you like the album or not, the results are unmistakable, undeniable. It was a superstar record, CD, whatever you want to say, recording. This album kicked butt, and it had a lot of energy. But before we get there, and we have to go back, as I said, the band was struggling. Of course, we know that Phil Collins had came along in the Pyromania recording because, unfortunately, Pete Willis just couldn't stay sober. And it just wasn't working. So Phil replaced him. They had a great, successful tour. They were millionaires. They became tax exiles. Most of them left England and selling other places. They got to work on the next album, working in Holland and different places. But the work was slow, and there were days they didn't get anything done. There were days they were hungover. They were drinking heavily. I mean, they say the amount of alcohol this band was drinking was, on a scale up there with anybody in the game. It doesn't matter who you're talking about. They just kept their image cleaner. I mean, just people that think they weren't partying as hard as, say, a Motley Crue or an Ozzy or anybody, they don't know what they're talking about. This band was partying hard, and it was taking its effects. And later on, Phil would become clean. And unfortunately, later on, we'll get to that in the next episode. Steve Clark was not able to stay, alive, and it was a tragedy, a continual tragedy for the band, and they struggled with that. That'll be episode number 4. We're not going to get there tonight. We're going to talk about Hysteria. So as I go along, I'm going to piece myself into the story because I was a huge fan, and I meant to I'll bring on the next show, I meant to bring in a couple of albums that I have still in my collection. I got rid of a lot of things years ago, but I still have. I still keep around a lot of their stuff because I was so close to it, and it just changes in my life. But anyway, still have that Pyromania album that me and my friend mowed the yard for to get the get the money, as we were talking about last week. So, anyway, in between Pyromania, which is, you think about, well, what happens in those years? Well, between that time frame and Hysteria, I got married. I mean, I got married, and I was very young, 21 years old, and we soon had a baby on the way, and so life changes and things change. So here I am. I went from a guy that was unattached and running around and doing teenager stuff, young adult stuff, working and all that. True, but I started my first manufacturing job at that time. So I was working at a little yarn mill. First time, just trying to make it, for having a new wife, a new son on the way. My oldest son, who is a big fan of Def Leppard, by the way, sends me stuff all the time. He loves that album. He loves everything by him, but his favorite is Hysteria. But anyway, he was on the way. Was born, and I went to work in my first manufacturing job. So I'm working there when I get the news, and I didn't have a computer back in those days. I certainly didn't have the cell phone like this. It has all. I didn't have notifications popping up and telling me that Def Leppard had a new album on the way. But somehow I heard that news, and I probably, because I was listening to rock all the time, as well as other styles of music and the local radio stations. I was listening to rock radio, and there was a lot of. I was really frustrated too with the early sounds of the '80s. The new wave stuff, Flock of Seagulls. It has its place, but I was really frustrated. I came from a time of rock, but I was Rick Allen's limo driver on his first wedding in Las Vegas to Stacy on September 20, 1991. Great guy. Hey, thanks for sharing that. I'll put that on there. Absolutely. Hey, that's what we always hear. They are great guys. And I have a particular appreciation for him because of the work he does with the wounded warriors and stuff like that. He's a deeply interest, he really comes from deep within. And he still to this day cannot talk about the injury without tearing up. And he knows that he is influencing people. And I love the work he's doing with art and everything. And it's that whole story is a story within itself. While he is practicing bloodying his feet, they don't even know if he's going to be able to make it back. They're just trying to get an album together. And if I remember right, the drum tracks were laid down late on this album because they were just trying to let him have his space, and they would hear him. I mean, the two things that I remember about that, he was in a room playing hours every day. I mean, all day long with bloody feet. And smoking a lot of marijuana. I mean, that's what they said, surely, pain and different things. And I never knew of him being a guy that did a lot of that, but at that time they said he was, and understandable, I guess. But, they're trying to get this album made. Mutt Lange comes back in, then the hard work begins. I mean, they scrap. There's a whole album out there. I don't know what they ever did with that. I really don't know. I think they just ripped it. It was recorded over, but whatever they spent, which was a bundle on the Jim Steinman time for whatever they came up with, which was scrapped, that was all lost. So they're basically starting over with some ideas. Animal had been around. I mean, it was almost sounding like a country song. They say it was reformatted several times. And so we'll talk about that, we'll get to the songs in a minute, but it was the last, it was the last time that they would work fully and solely with Mutt Lange. He did come in and help them a little bit, but this was it. And it is the pinnacle. It is the pinnacle of their career. Whether you like that album as best or not, it is the pinnacle, you could say, because of the length of tour, the sales, the superstardom, and everything about it. So they have all this stuff going on. I mean, crazy stuff, and other things that happen, sicknesses, and it's slow going. Mutt Lange is meticulous. He's having them layer the tracks one note at a time, over and over again. Rick Allen, some of the documentaries, you'll see Rick saying, "I'm hitting a hi-hat. Okay, hit it again, bam, hit it again, bam, 30 times in a row." I mean, it's monotonous. There's talks that Joe talks about walking out of the recording studio and just, I can't do this. I mean, it was a grind. And that's why I know Pete Willis would have never lasted for Hysteria, even though I hate that he left the band. If he wasn't making it in Pyromania, he was not going to make it. He was not going to make it during Hysteria. He could not handle that kind of action. It was hard enough on Steve Clark. Steve Clark wasn't really a studio hound. Phil was. Steve Clark, though, was a riff master, but he did what he had to do. But it drove him crazy too. But the whole band, I mean, it just drove them crazy as they're doing it. Dave, I'm surprised a guy from the Deep South like Def Leppard so much. It's cool. Don't get me wrong. It's my favorite band. And so that the only reason I did Tesla first was because the friendship, and I just wanted to cover them and then go Def Leppard, and we're going to move to other bands. I got a couple more weeks that I need to do a Def Leppard though. I mean, you could stay on them forever, but we got to move on, and we'll go to some other band. I don't know who it's going to be yet, but they really and it was expensive. I mean, they're living off the record company money. And I got, as I said last week, Q Prime, all those guys that hung in there with them, their management team, they had, I mean, because this was their careers riding on the line. It's still to me amazing they hung with them. They would give them little snippets of new music that they had, not even completed work, and that would satisfy them for a while. So they keep working through this. They start getting some working songs under their belt. Things have changed. Think about things have changed just since Pyromania to Hysteria. My favorite song from Hysteria, that's going to be kind of tough, but I will reveal that towards the end of the show, best I can, because it had varied. But I will tell you, I do have one. It may shock you a little bit because I like every song, but I will tell you what my favorite song is, and I've got a little bit I want to cover about that particular song. But they've got this hard days, long days, frustrating days. With Steinman, it began at the Wieslord Studios in Holland on August 11th, 1984, with Neil Dorsman as the engineer, but that didn't work, as we said. It just didn't work. So they parted ways. They scrapped the material from the sessions, and they tried to produce by themselves with Lang's engineer Nigel Green, which has been around forever with them, and he's done some good stuff with them. Steve Clark recalled it was very slow work because we didn't have any sort of headmaster there, and we had to try everything 5 different ways. Everybody's pulling, and they all have different influences too, by the way. I mean, everything from punk to, AC/DC to Led Zeppelin to Mott the Hoople. I mean, these guys have influences all over the place, which makes a great band, I think. So then, on the E, Rick Allen loses his arm. We talked about that. He goes through this recovery process. They don't know what's going to happen. I mean, they're just trying to record. And so they get to work, and it took they started getting some tracks down. They started getting some of the songs together. It was slow go work. Well, and as I said, they had some extra songs, Tear It Down, which was always one of my favorites, which made it on a B-side, then on Adrenalize. Another song I liked was I Want to Be Your Hero and Ring of Fire. These were all songs that were laid down as B-side material. So they did get extra work done. These were straight on rockers. Tear It Down is just a straight on rocker. And really all these are. The album was finally released August 3rd, 1987. So let me go back to me. I'm at work. I hear, hey, Def Leppard has a new album, which was, I was like shocked. Like, where they been? I knew about Rick, but I didn't know all the other stuff. So I told a friend of mine, we just work friends. We became after work friends and all that for many years. I've lost track of him now, but he was a huge Def Leppard fan. So he was like, I love that band. So we had talked music already. So we decided to go to the concert, which was in Atlanta, GA. We saw them early on that tour. I don't remember how early, but we saw them, and I'll come back to that in a minute. So they get the album out. They do some club dates to try to make sure Rick could go. They used a double. We talked a little bit about this last week. Double drummers. the guy's late for like the third show or something, and Rick handles it. He says, "You don't need me," and then then they kick off on the tour. Amazing stuff at Donington that year because this the reception of Rick Allen, the Thunder God, and they talk about just the screams and stuff, how it blew their hair back. I mean, the wave of energy and emotion was amazing as they talk about that. It's still very emotional. It was emotional in the first show. I mean, I was just the three songs I watched him and nothing else, just Rick Allen. And my wife was wanting the binoculars. We had bad seats. She's wanting the binoculars, look at Joe's ripped pants. And I'm like, I said, it's just amazing. It's truly amazing. I never saw him in concert before. I loved In the Round. I loved the Clint Eastwood intro, Killer, and how they started out with Stage Fright and ripped those curtains down, which didn't always work well. Sometimes they had problems with that, and they get going. So it's great. Broski says, yeah, that's a great song. Absolutely. And yes, it is a great album. I don't care what anybody says. It's a great album. Is it more polished? Is it more produced? Absolutely. I would spend hours with this album just listening for the different parts in the music with headphones on, no other sound, quiet room, and I was trying to pick out guitar parts. You could never find them all because they layered them by the hundreds to layer it to give it depth. And that, I mean, you hear this album is so crazy. You hear sounds that sound like they're coming from outer space, and you have other sounds that's right up there, and they're kind of moving in and out and up and down. It is a genius work. I'm telling you, I was just amazed by that stuff. And when I buy a new album or CD or whatever, I have to listen to it several times in a row. The first time through, every album I ever get, I'll pick out a few things, but it almost sounds a lot of the same. As I listen, my ears start picking up more and more stuff. And so I'll run an album through 30 times, 40 times, 50 times before I really feel like, and that's not even the totality of it. I feel like I kind of have a gauge of where I'm at on the album and the songs and all of that. I'll just put it in and I'll spin this thing front to back. I believe in doing that, first song all the way to the end. But then I'll start isolating songs, isolating parts of songs. And I'm not a player. I just love that. It's just fascinating for me to do. So they got all the songs done, and if you know this band, they were working to get the album out. The band is pushed. I mean, the record company is like, my gosh, we got to get this thing out. They're crunching at the last hour. Joe's the last one. Our Mutt's in there. Mike Shipley's in there. Nigel Green. They're trying to finish up. They got it all done. And, as you know the story, Mutt takes a break. Joe picks up the guitar and is playing around with the early version stages of Pour Sugar on Me. And Mutt says, "What's that?" Just something I'm working on. No, play some more. That's good. And little did he know that Mutt said, "We don't have that song. We have a great out. We don't have that song, the song." So he called the band back up. They're burnt out. I mean, think about how long this has been going. And we got one more song. Sorry, guys, you got to come in. But they hammered this song out pretty quick. So, and I love, I'm going to show here just a second. Let me find it with all the things I have up. Share screen. And, of course, it did create a very different look. This is a very different look. When you see that concept, which Satori or whatever his name is, that does that. And I remember a lot of the European releases. I remember going to a record convention in Atlanta at the World Congress Center, and I may still have it, but they put out the singles and they cut that picture into squares. And if you had to buy the whole collection to make it fit together, if you didn't have one of them, that whole total picture wouldn't be there, which was a great genius marketing idea. And yes, I bought them. It was a European release. I don't think that was ever released here. But Broski says, Dave, when Def Leppard, Hysteria, Guns N' Roses, Appetite for Destruction, Motley Crue, Girls came out in 87, wild new music genre for me at the time. Yeah, to me, that was hard rock. It moved me off listening to just metal. I was 10, but remember it so well. Yeah, a lot of people have memories about this at different ages. But that screaming face and all that, it was odd at the time. Almost looked like a space kind of thing to me or whatever. But I've learned to really appreciate it, and they really, they, of course, they've always done the Def Leppard that way in homage to Led Zeppelin. But the Hysteria, kind of the way they did the fonts on that, I just loved every part of it. I thought that was pretty cool. So they get to touring. Hello, Dean Potts. They get to touring, and people have forgotten them. It's what happens. Some of the real hardcore fans showed up. The early shows are not a sellout. It's not a sellout, but the album is doing fairly well. Not great, but fairly well. Early on, it looked almost like a disaster area. One of the problems that they had is the way they released the early singles was, and if I remember right, they released Women in the U.S. Now, if you look at Wikipedia, they will say that Animal was first, but Animal was released, if I remember right, in England first, and then Women here. And I love that song. But it's kind of one of those songs that kind of builds. The video was pretty cool. And it was the first song on the first side, Women. But it bombed out. It was a bad timing for that song. They shouldn't have went with that song first. My opinion. It just was not the lead single. It just wasn't the one. And I don't even know the Animal should have been, but I think it would have been a better release here in the U.S. Than it was Women. But anyway, you get to these releases, and as singles, you had Animal, Women, Pour Some Sugar on Me, Hysteria, Armageddon, Love Bites, and Rocket. And so I want to pull up the album. Let me stop screen, reshare screen, and oops, wrong one. Things flip around. You hit the wrong button. I want to pull up the singles for this. There it is right there, I believe. Yes. And it's kind of hard to see, I know, but you can kind of make it out as it scrunches it down. But of course, Women was that first song. So I get the album, and I remember getting it, and I had a CD player in the car, and I went down the road, and I listened to this thing, and I didn't know what to think at first. I mean, it took me on a journey, because again, your last album was Pyromania. That thing hits you in the face right off the bat. So you get this little intro into Women. It has a slow build up, and then it kind of kicks in and goes, but it's a building song. And so I'm listening to this, and I went, okay, I like the song, but I'm still evaluating. You roll right into Rocket. Now, Rocket is the most experimental song on the album for me. There are so many sounds that they put in there. I love the way that Leppard does this song live. They add in, they do some guitar solos and stuff that are a little bit extra from the record, because they have to do some captured sounds and bits and stuff that they throw out there, but they really keep that limited nowadays. It's just straight on guitars. They don't do too much of that, but you have a lot of sounds that are being, that are popped in the song. And so it was a hard song to really figure out live, but I liked Rocket, but it was wild. It was very different than anything they'd ever done. And I went, okay, when I heard Rocket cue up, and I went, whoa, this is way different. What was that? So then you get to Animal, a little more straight on. I took to Animal really fast. Like, I'm not even sure where I'm at with Women and Rocket the first time I go through this album, but Animal really stood out. I loved Animal. It was the video was absolutely genius and they actually spent 2 full days, I believe it was, with that circus. It was a great video. I love the color. Steve Clark looks great in that video, by the way. If ever there was a guy that looked like a rock star, it's Steve Clark, with that long blonde hair, that thin body, the way he held his guitar like Jimmy Page. And he had the sunglasses going on. He's kicking up, hay or something in that stall, and he's playing. I love the way he looks in that video. But Animal is great. Then you roll into the power ballad, Love Bites. Now, Love Bites, I remember, and I didn't know this for years, but Joe said when he played that song for his mom, she cried. It touched her so deeply. It was a song, which is, I love this song to today. It's one of my, and I love all the songs, so it's hard to say it, but it is one of my favorite songs on the album. I love the video. I love how the videos, by the way, for the album were great. The early version of Women, I think it was, or one of them wasn't that good. They redid it. It really scored bad. They redid it. A lot of the stuff was live looks on stage. Everybody was doing that at the time, and it was smart to do. So you have Animal, Love Bites. I love the way that is a great song, and that you've got 4 songs in, and they're all over 5 minutes except one, and one of them over 6. This album was packed full of material, and it went 62 minutes. In some versions, 67 minutes. They've added some things have extra things added in. Then you get to that song, Pour Some Sugar on Me. Very different. Okay, when they were doing the recording, we said Pour Some Sugar on Me was the add-in. They will always be glad that they went back to the studio, and it made them really ultra rich. That song. We'll come back to that in a minute. When I heard that song, I went, wow, yes. I knew this album from that point. I was sold that this was a really good album. Didn't know it was great yet, but as a Leppard fan, I went, okay, we're there. I'm good. I got to go back and hear this Rocket song again. And Women, I don't need to go back and listen, but on the basis of Animal, Love Bites, and Pour Some Sugar on Me, I went, the boys are back. I remember going down the road and I said those words, the boys are back. And I loved it. Then Armageddon on the first side. Broski, you mentioned that song. Really straight on rocker. The play on words is great. When I saw the name of that, when I picked the album up, I thought it was a political statement like Armageddon or a biblical futuristic, like, what's that? I had no idea that was English humor at the time. Dean says, I love Pour Some Sugar on Me. Broski Bear, Hysteria was a journey. Good call. Yes, it really was. And it's a musical journey. Armageddon. So first side, I'm happy. We go to the second side. Wow. The second side is filled with all sorts of experimentation. There are some straight on rockers in here, but there's a lot of experimentation, which is Gods of War, to me, is one of the most iconic songs that Leppard ever did. And I love the call at the end to have, the president's words. And that song, and by the way, Vivian Campbell has a hard time playing this song. He can play anything, but there's a chord progression change in this song that it blows. Vivian says it's a mental thing. He says, just can't get my fingers to work right. And he will say, yeah, I actually didn't blow Gods of War in this. They ask him how his show went. He'll say, it went great. I didn't blow Gods of War, because it really irks him that he messes up on that song. He says that. It's one part, but that song is amazing. And it has, the sounds of the gunfire and all that stuff, helicopters, amazing. It goes back to, it harkens back to a little bit of Pyromania with some things they did there in a couple of songs. Don't Shoot Shotgun, big fan. It wasn't my early fave or anything like that, and it did have, again, more experimentation, some deep voices popped in, some drum beats and stuff that were heavy. Don't Do Shotgun. My understanding is Run Right, which is the most straight on rocker with very little of anything. It's just rock. They went and recorded this song in response to another big band releasing a rocker around the time. And they said, we've got to have another song. And Run Right became that song. They've played it in concert quite a bit, not as much as some of the others, but it is a really good song and I like it. And buried deep on the second side, which is odd to me in the progression of this album, is the song Hysteria. Love the video. It is one of the best power ballads I think ever, and the way it's written, it has a great flow to it. It is one of my favorite Def Leppard songs. There were another album that was put out called Hysteria at the same time. The original intention for this album was to be Animal Instinct, which was the name of the book, their first book that was written, that came out around the same time. It was to be Animal Instinct, but they said it became very natural that Hysteria should be the name title. And I think that was the right call. Excitable, which is the most unique song on this album. They don't play this one very often in concert, but I have heard them play it. It is a really unique song. It's a little wild to me, but excitable. And then you get, and to me, it's kind of it's kind of weird that you end the album on another power ballad, Love and Affection. Now, great album, both sides, over an hour of music. I want to go back to the singles up here, the releases of them. So, according to Wikipedia, and I'm just looking, these are reference, I'm just mainly, these are my memories. Yeah, Broski, Are You Excitable? That's a great song, but it has some odd stuff in it, you know. It almost sounded like they were a little toasted or high when, but hey, it's a good song. It was the one song that took me a long time to warm up to. I love the album, but I went, I don't know about that Excitable song. I was almost like, I don't know. When I heard Tear It Down, I really thought they should have switched. But I know why they did that, because Tear It Down and all those really were leftovers from the Pyromania time, some early days of Hysteria recording and stuff. And I felt like they didn't want to put that in the album, and they really wanted to stretch it. And I don't know who made the decision, or if it was every one of them or Mud or whoever, but I get it. But it took me a long time to warm up to the song. I love it now, but again, I have to listen to a song a lot of times. So anyway, the Animal was released. Love Animal. They say this song had more changes in it than any song maybe they've ever recorded. At one time it sounded, they said, like a country song, and I can see that. I love the song. It's a great song. It's one of those anthem, almost a little bit of an anthem type song. Animal. I mean, it is a really cool song. Women, I don't think that should have been the lead single. It's a great song, like the video. I like the build in this song. I like songs that do that and they build, and this song certainly does that. Pour Some Sugar on Me, we'll come back to in a minute, which was late. It was written in a very different style. They had this song up, recorded, and everything finished within 2 weeks of this, of Joe playing that for Mutt and then them recording it. Hysteria, a gold mine song to follow up with Pour Some Sugar on Me. Armageddon, it just continued that great progression. I remember the live, and I love in this song, and little did we know, yes, and I want, and I need, and I lust, and more. It just has a nice build. When Armageddon came out, and I love that little line, which he had to change forever, right? When he turns in the song, and on stage he would do that too. Joe would, to Steve, get it, Steve, or however he says that. Now he'll say boys, or I have heard him say Vivian, but they try to be careful of that, because that was Steve's little spot, and it was a great song. Women love that song. The guys love it. It's a great song. Love Bites, again, has its place, and then Rocket. The problem here that I have, if there is a problem, and it's really Rocket is, of all these songs, I love, if you go listen to the 1992 Sun Valley Stadium live show, which is my favorite show with Vivian to listen to. It was 1992. It hadn't been with a band long. They spent a lot of money there because they recorded that video and audio. They made a ton. I mean, it was a packed out stadium, but they didn't make a dime on that show. And we have that great video, and it's amazing. I love the way they do Rocket in there. And if you, at the end of Rocket, they add in the Led Zeppelin thing. By the way, Led Zeppelin told them to stop doing that. They thought they were like paying homage to Led Zeppelin. Led Zeppelin's management, a lawyer, sent them a letter and said, don't do it no more. So they had to stop doing that. So they kind of changed the way they play it. I love the interaction in this, because Vivian still, he fits in the band, but he's still early there. And Phil and Vivian are, trying to figure their way out on stage together. I love the way that they work together in this show. If you've never seen it, go to YouTube, just punch in the Don Valley Stadium Leppard. I think that's 92. I watch it often. It is a great concert video. But Rocket was the last one. There was to be an eighth. And I understand why they didn't, but it was a mistake. It was a mistake. They should have done it. What they said is they toured for 15 months. Now, that's a long time. That's a long time, 15 months. The reason they said they didn't release the final song, by the way, they tied with Michael Jackson's Thriller for number of releases on there. I mean, Thriller was the only thing that kept them out of the top spot. But the only the song "Love and Affection" was to be the 8th single, and the thinking is we just are burned out. We need to get back in the studio, and we just can't, if we release that, we'll have to tour some more, at least 2 or 3 more months, and we just can't. We're burned out. We got to get off the road. I understand that, but I wish they had released it anyway. Love that song. I'll come back to that in a minute. Seven singles deep. They're played. All these songs are played on rock radio today, hair metal, classic rock radio stations in my town. They play every one of these songs. This album, and plus the Pyromania songs and some songs later. But this is the crux of what your classic rock radio stations play, is the stuff off of here, and about 4 or 5 songs from Pyromania. That's and they'll play obviously the Bring on the Heartbreak from High and Dry. That's really what rock radio plays. Now, I really wish that hair metal, like Hair Nation on satellite radio, would go a little deeper and would play a little bit deeper cuts. I really wish they would do that. Okay, so we go back, and if part of the story we have to talk about is Animal Women come out. This album is amazing. They're looking at it as a failure because they owe so much money. They sold 3 million albums. The tour dates start filling up a little more. The album sells well. Started out kind of rough. They had sections of arenas blocked off. There was a little concern there, but it started doing better. They looked at it as a success, and the thinking was, let's get the heck off the road, go back in the studio. We've got material. Let's get the next album out quicker. We can't wait 4 years. We're the 3 million albums canceled the debt out, but they didn't make no money. At this point, they have no profit. So that's not good. I mean, obviously they get a cut off of sales and stuff on the arenas and stuff, but for the album, there's no money there for the band. They're just paying back the radio station. Imagine that as a band, you have to sell 3 million albums to break even. Crazy, but that's exactly what happened. And oh, by the way, I don't think Leppard could have done more touring because I don't think Steve Clark could have handled it anyway. I think that was probably, they never mentioned it, but I think his problems were probably starting to show up a little bit by that time anyway. Maybe early versions of the, I'm just guessing, but I think it would have been too hard for him. He had a hard time with touring. He'd love to be on stage, but he had a hard time with touring because he had stage fright. Now that song's not about that song's about something else if you know the song, but that's the way he really struggled with getting on stage. That's why he got smashed. But there are stories about him smashing his hand before the tour started, trying to break his finger so he wouldn't have to play. And they're like, "What are you doing, dude?" I mean, he just had some great guy, just a sweet guy. Just it's a shame. We'll talk about that next show, Steve Clark. But so anyway, and the way the story goes is that strippers in South Florida started calling radio stations up and requesting the Pour Some Sugar on Me song to be played. Def Leppard. Yeah, there were different versions of Def Leppard. I remember what I told I remember the first time that I mentioned somebody, Def Leppard, to somebody, and one of my friends said, "What, they can't hear?" It's a leopard they can't hear. I mean, it blows people's mind. So all of a sudden, and this is what they say, Pour Some Sugar on Me starts getting played by DJs in South Florida at the request of strippers, and the rest is history. You've seen the video, the live video cut for that. This song catapulted in this album into the stratosphere. There were some weeks, we talked about the 100,000 a week that Pyromania was shipping out. This album had some 500,000 shipped weeks. This went in the stratosphere. This was the ride. This was the ride of their life. This was the time frame that every band that's ever been, unless there's some kind of eclectic band that hates success, there are some nuts out there. This is the time that every band hopes for, the dream that we make it to the movie stars, and as the Clampets coming out, jet airplanes. You buy your own plane. This is what happens. You buy your own plane. You're staying in the best places. Your bank account's fat. You buy several Ferraris or whatever you want. I mean, Porsches and Lamborghinis. I mean, this catapulted them for all time. And this album still sells well. This album's been out a long time, 40 years. They just celebrated that. They've did some Las Vegas, where they played this album in its full and all that. It's a great album. It still plays well. People like it, and they will always like it. This is the zenith of Leppard's career. And I get it. They're all the naysayers that say, I quit listening to them after High and Dry. Okay, fine. That's fine. If you want to quit, you quit. I don't care. But Def Leppard was a riff off of Led Zeppelin. It was honored them. It honored their appreciation for that band and the love they had for them. And Steve Clark, for one, was a huge Jimmy Page fan. They all were, but Steve Clark more. So it flies. It just goes. Pour Some Sugar on Me. And man, those are not, I mean, let's face it. And if Leppard takes any kind of a hit from people, I remember when Dio was mad that Vivian, he fired Vivian, and Vivian joins Def Leppard, and if you saw that video where he's signing autographs and somebody asked him about Vivian joining Def Leppard, and he has some very ugly things to say. I get that they weren't getting along, but listen up, dude. God rest your soul, rest in peace. But really, to trash Def Leppard, come on, man. You know what? I don't think they would have ever done you that way. That really wasn't the last time that Pete Willis was Pyromania laid down the tracks, but some of those early guys, I don't remember what some of them did, but the very early guys, that played with them before some of the other members come in, Watchmen. But Def Leppard, if they take a hit on anything, and it's the lyric content. And I get it. Some of your truists, your lyricists and stuff that want to tell a deep, introspective story of life and the inner man and wisdom and okay, crapola. If that's what you want to do, Eddie Vedder and all that, I don't care. When I listen, Willis, okay, the last album he played on was Pyromania, but he didn't he is credited on that album. He didn't play the leads, solos, but he laid down tracks on that. Then he got fired. So anyway, Leppard will tell you they never let the lyrics stand in the way of a good song. So if you look at Rocket, which has a lot of interesting kind of strange lyrics to it, they just put lyrics that fit. If you're looking for deep meaning with Leppard songs, they're not there. I mean, let's face it, Wasted, that's not taking you on a spiritual journey, right? Rocket, those are just, they throw all kinds of things together. Joe Elliott always believed in that. He did write some songs that have a little bit of a storyline to them, storyboard, but most of their stuff is not that way. Pour Some Sugar on Me is just straight on, as a lot of their songs, a lot of rock songs are. It's just about sex, right? I mean, that's what rock is. It's about angry young men who want to party and have lots of sex. I mean, that's what it's about. Armageddon, it was, are you getting it? It's a play on words. Are you getting it? Okay, you get that. Women, it makes sense. Animal instinct, the lust. It's all about that. Then, love bites, breakups. It's always a great, how, you love somebody and love bites, love bleeds. I love that song, man. It's a great song. Love and affection. I mean, all those songs come a little bit closer to telling a little bit of that kind of thing. But Leppard just, he writes lyrics that make a great song. And it's just the way they do. They're not, so if you're looking for deep meaning with Leppard's lyrics, you're not going to find them. And people give them crap about that. I will say they have sold a heck of a lot of records and they don't care. So they're not trying to be that. They're absolutely, and they grew up on, and you have to know their influences too. Queen was a huge influence. Queen was really kind of the same way. If you're looking for a lot of deep meaning in Queen songs, go get on the bus and leave. It's Fat Bottom Girls. I mean, the same kind of thing. That was a huge influence on them. Which, by the way, Queen, one of my favorite guitarists of all time in Queen. I mean, I love that guy. Genius of a guy. Genius. Absolutely genius. Yeah, he did make him record it note by note. Absolutely. So they, superstardom. The album has staying power. It's been there. They didn't put the 8th single, which, I really, like I said, I love that song. And there were songs that didn't make the cut. Some of them come back later on Adrenalize. We'll talk about next time. We'll talk about the death of Steve Clark and Adrenalize. And I have a lot of history with that. I saw Leppard. I'm trying to remember. I know it's at least 4 times on Hysteria tour. I saw them first in Atlanta, GA. I saw them Thompson Bowling Arena in Knoxville, Tennessee. Almost froze to death out there. That's the story I told you about having to call stadium security and saying, help. We were freezing to death. Hey, Jake. I saw them Chattanooga, Tennessee on that tour. And I saw them in at least 2 amphitheaters. I may have saw them 6 times on that tour because I saw them 15 times. So I saw them at the Lakewood. Atlanta was always my favorite place to watch shows, by the way. The Roundhouse in Chattanooga is just too small. It's had some nice shows, but that's not my favorite place. The acoustics and all were not great, never have been. Chattanooga needs a better place. The Omni was pretty good, not great. I've not heard concerts in Mercedes-Benz or the new Hawk Stadium or whatever they call that. I don't remember what they call it now. I love amphitheaters. I love the summertime shows. I used to love to go. So I went to the Lakewood for a lot of shows. Oh, and I think I saw them at the Starwood. Which one was it? Lakewood was in Atlanta, Starwood, or is that the Nashville amphitheater as well? I saw them there. So 2 amphitheaters for sure. I saw them in Atlanta twice on that tour because again, 15 months they came back around. Knoxville and Chattanooga. That was when I saw them. Watchman says the first time we went in the studio to make an album, I told them just don't make us sound like Def Leppard Hysteria. Well, there were a lot of copycats and stuff. But you think about all the iconic albums, and Broski mentioned it earlier. All the iconic albums, because the early 80s was pretty bad. If you go back and look at the releases, the early 80s was horrible. We come out, and listen, I'm not against a lot of that. If you're wanting some straight on rock and roll, the late 70s was pretty bad. I mean, listen, I can dig some disco, but it was, it was not good. The early 80s was horrible if you go back and look, but it started kicking in. And by the mid to late 80s, it was in full flow. I mean, 87 was a magical year for releases. Appetite for Destruction was mentioned, Girls, 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 Hysteria, and many, many more. Great. All the way into the early 90s, and then it all died because of the Seattle move and all that. Everybody wanted to wear plaid and sing about suicide and stuff. I mean, it drove me crazy. I like a lot of songs from that era, but that whole scene drove me crazy because I was a fan. Listen, I like to have fun. I don't want to go on I don't want to cry in my drink or, sit and think and get depressed. I listen to music to be inspired, encouraged, to laugh, aggression, all that stuff. A good love song is great, but I don't listen. I don't want to go on that kind of journey where at the end of it, you're looking at the bullet and the weapon, and you know what I mean. I don't want to say it because I'll get struck, but that's what some of that stuff sounded like to me. No, I like something that makes me feel good. And, we got enough problems in our world. I don't want to have to sing about it. Broski goes on to say, yes, Skid Row. Absolutely. I was around that time, put out some great stuff. Motley, Dr. Feelgood. You said you saw Aerosmith on the Pump Tour in Atlanta. No alcohol. Sound like I've had some show. Absolutely correct. Great show. That show is the best show I ever saw in my life for sound. And they sung Seasons of Wither, which is in my top 3 of Aerosmith songs. I love that song. And I couldn't believe how great it sounded. Their sound that whole show was amazing. I've heard a lot of good shows, a lot. I heard some bad ones, but that show was the best sounding show. It was magical. there for that show. Loved it, and I love they went back and got Seasons of Wither. Man, I love that song. I can listen to that song 20 times in a row. I just love that. We'll talk about a song that takes me on a journey. That's the one. It's just personal to me. It probably wouldn't mean nothing to anybody else. I don't know why. It just takes me on a little bit of a journey. Then he says, Poison opened up and say, absolutely. You had all this stuff releasing. It was highly competitive. Bon Jovi releasing albums and stuff. Again, all these people were fighting for concerts, tickets and stuff, and they were all fighting over it. But the fans were loving it. I mean, Alice in Chains in the 90s, and their exception, their stuff never sounded to me like that. Maybe a little bit, but not much. It was more straight on. So, they come off the road, and we'll get to it next week. I want to go back because you asked me about my favorite song. Mutt Lange is never to work with them to the level that he worked with them here ever again. He did help them with some songs like Promises and a couple others, I think. But they've moved on. They do their own stuff, for better or worse, whatever. This was the last album that he worked with them fully. They're always friends. But this was it. And then tragedy would strike again. Not right away. It took a little bit of time. And then, of course, they're back on the road in 92 and big changes. And we'll talk about that next week. Now, Broski asked me the question. Okay. Watchmen say Bon Jovi. Yeah, Slippery When Wet in New Jersey were huge. Absolutely. I was at the show. Did you see a giant banner a bunch of chicks were holding with Aerosmith logo that said "Pump Me, Rock Me, Raw"? Man, I don't remember, dude. He said I made that banner. How cool. I don't remember. It's a lot of me and my wife were at that show. We didn't take anybody else. It was just me and her. And I just don't remember. I don't remember. I remember walking up though to the concessions and seeing the beer shut down. That blew my mind. And people were mad. But I actually enjoyed it for the show aspect because yes, I was still drinking at that time, but I quit right at not long after that. Not long after that. A couple 3 years I was done. And I ain't going back ever. So I was done. But I actually kind of like that because the worst thing about going to shows is drunks. Some people just can't handle being that. It's really hard for me to pick a favorite song. Years ago, if you'd asked me, I would say Hysteria. And that's still very hard for me not to say that. And it may sound crazy to you with all the rockers and different things in this song. But honestly, my favorite song is Love and Affection off this album. And I don't know why. I just like how the riffs hit in that song. It has an odd time start to me. And it's always been interested me how that song kind of starts. I don't know how you describe that. I'm not a musician, but that beginning of it almost sounds like there should be a note before that. It's like it falls into it. It's not a slow start. It's just like a crunch and you're in there. Maybe Watchman, he's a musician. He could probably put it in a musical term that I don't understand. But I love that. If you don't know what I'm talking about, just go listen to the front of that song and the way it kind of drops in. It just, I don't know. And I just love the song. I love the sound of it. It means a lot to me. I think about, Love Bots it's a great song, but it's kind of hard. I mean, you breaking up and, it bleeds and all that. It's a great song that I love, but that's a kind of song that I could sing with my wife, and we could sing that song. And she's a big Leppard fan, and so I guess it makes me think about my wife a little bit or something. And I just like that song. But again, Hysteria, I think that's great. And if I had to say, Sugar's not my favorite, it never has been, but I do like it, and it's a very simple song. That song does not. The solos are pretty good, but it's built to be a really, it's made to sound like a stripper song. I mean, honestly, that's the way they kind of wrote that. And it's very different timing wise than anything they ever did. But it's an anthem. It is an anthem, and anthems are kind of like that. So every show they ever do, they have to play Sugar. Have you ever heard Phil Collins sing the song lead? I've heard him do that when he's been in places and Joe couldn't be there. He's not bad. He's not bad at singing that song. He can do it. He's got a little rougher voice. He likes to sing the blues and stuff. He's not a singer, but he actually does a pretty good job on Pour Some Sugar on Me. I've heard him live with a very scaled down band doing that. Not bad, not bad. Phil's played here in Chattanooga quite a bit at some of the festivals that we've had here. A lot of people here talk about meeting him and stuff. Anyway, Watchman says, it looked professional. I spent a week painting that a cop grabbed me from those, grabbed from those chicks and threw it in the trash. I almost got kicked out when I went off on the cop. Whoa, yeah, that would make a memory. You spent a week on something like that. The crowd kept me from getting kicked out. It was epic. I bet. Lots of ear candy on that album, according to Watchmen. It's not heavy. It is what it is. It's a concert album, is what I would describe it. It is, every song on here is made. Every song was meant to be a single, by the way. That's what Mutt said. I want an album where every song could be a single, and it is. It is that. Every song could be a single. Some artists get mad when you do that because they feel like you're catering to radio. Phil Collins always took heck on that. You just write a bunch of hits. Well, I'm sorry, I'm successful. If that's your argument, you always got those artists. Let me think of one who's a jerk. What's the guy from Pink Floyd that ticks everybody off? He's the kind of guy that would say something like that. Oh, what is his name? Man. My mind is not working sometimes when I'm in a show, but jerk. He would say that, and again, I hate it when artists criticize artists, and Def Leppard's done this. Let me full disclosure here. They were critical of Bret Michaels and Poison at one time. They're friends, but Joe, I don't know why they did that. I think sometimes, I don't know if it's English humor or they were mad at somebody or what, but there has been here and there, every once in a while, Joe will say something controversial and he has to clean it up. And I think it comes from it is English humor. Sometimes I don't know what it is. I'm not Joe. You'd have to ask him. He blew it off. Roger Waters, thank you. Cool sound effects, intros. It's a masterpiece of top production. Yes. Let me ask you this. Here's controversy as well. Two things about this tour and album that I remember. First of all, Joe made controversial remarks about Hispanics that about got them kicked out of Texas. In fact, I think they had to reschedule a show down there. I don't want to say the phrase he said because I feel like I'll get picked up in, these AI bots will pick up what you say and they'll say that I'm saying it. But if you go back and look, Roger Waters is one of the best shows you'll ever witness. And I'm not saying it's not. I just think he's a jerk. I can believe that. Some artists are, they're odd people, and but I don't like some of the imagery he does. And we may disagree or whatever. But I'm just saying that's for me. I'm not a huge Floyd fan anyway. I like some of their songs. You give me 5 songs, I'm done with them. I'm not a fan, so I don't want to. I'm not an expert when it comes to Pink Floyd. I'm not an expert at anything, but I'm not as knowledgeable about Pink Floyd at all. So Joe Elliott made that comment, and he said it. If I remember right, he said it. I don't know if he said it on a radio station or I can't remember, or at a concert, but he talked about going to Texas and he made the statement that he made, and it got them it got them in trouble big time. And Watchman loves Waters and Pink Floyd. What's the other guy there? The guitar player? It's on the tip of my tongue. But anyway, it got him controversy. Now, the controversy about the recording. I don't know if y'all are familiar with this, and it really bothered me greatly. And I cannot tell you the hours that I spent listening to that cut, that little soundbite, at the end of, is it Hysteria? Yeah, David Gilmour. Thank you, Watchman. At the end of Hysteria, it plays out. Ain't that Hysteria? Where they say it's English, it's control room humor, and they say they're saying "oh bloody hell," and it's just some English humor. I've heard people say that it's legit. Others say it was a joke. It's not there. But if you go and listen to that, there is what sounds to be a disparaging remark about Jesus Christ. Now I think they have struck that from all the later pressings because it caused a firestorm. And I got to say, it hit me like a ton of bricks because if there's one thing, and you know, I don't like anything that does that. I don't. And another band that has that, and to me, it's the greatest riff I think I've ever heard in my life, and it is Alice in Chains, "Man in the Box." But those lyrics, my gosh, don't like them. Don't like them. Again, there's a lot of people, they'll say it's just art, it's this. Had a friend, he's a huge Chains fan. He said he was on heroin. He don't remember even why he wrote the lyrics he wrote. But dude, really, did you have to write that? I just don't like those lyrics in that chorus. And I never will. That's just me. I'm not going to like that. It's blasphemy to me. And so I don't know. I have been on both sides of the fence on that. Did they really say that? If they did it, why would they leave that in there? It is so quick. I've been on both sides of it. Watchman says, I hate the song "Man in the Box." Yeah, I understand. But that one song sounds like they're saying, I've been tipping Copenhagen. Okay. Bands do weird stuff sometimes in a recording studio. The whole backward masking, all that. I never got into that. But there are albums out there that were done that way. But that was the controversy from this album. It never gained a huge amount of traction. The disparaging remark hurt them more than that. Other people just, some people, I've had people ask me about it. Dave, do you believe that's what it says? And how do you feel about that? And I've been honest about it. I don't like it. If that was their intent, even humor. No, there was the other thing on Pyromania. I'm talking about something totally different. I'm not talking about the Gleben, Globen. I'm not talking about that. If you know what I'm talking about, you'd have to get an early version, pressing of that CD, and you'd have to listen to very end of that as it plays out, and it sounds like a disparaging remark against Jesus Christ, and I don't like that. And I've heard other people tell me, Dave, that's not there, but I heard they took it off. So I want to say it is. I want to say it's at the end of. No, it's not Hysteria. I think it is Love Bites. Love Bites at the very end. It's right near the end. It goes on. It is really quick. It's just as the song is fading out, but you have to listen to an early version pressing of that album. I think they changed it. They shortened it down anyway because they found out that there's always the radio version. And I think they went later with more of the radio version because the radio stations are not going to play that all the way to the end anyway. They always cut that off anyway. Because you always have to have that to get your song played. Songs get cut a little bit. Could be 5 seconds, could be 20 seconds. It depends on or 1 second. Depends on, they always cut the last part of, and I always hate that, the live version of Leonard Skinner's "Freebird" always makes me mad. The radio never plays that always out. The last guitar work on that makes me mad, and they just cut it because it's a long song, and I get it. They're ready to do a commercial, so they cut that part out. But this, and there's things I didn't cover tonight because this is a lot. This is a lot to cover, honestly. It really is when you're talking about this album. It's amazing. It's the pinnacle. There's a lot in this album that I just didn't cover. The concerts were great. I didn't have a bad concert at all. Got to see them. I remember once I saw them back to back, and I saw them in Nashville at the amphitheater. Then I saw them in Atlanta, and I ran into these fans. They loved Leppard. It was their first show to see them, and obviously the first show on that tour. And I kind of helped them know what was going on, because at times they didn't really know how, what was. I take that back. That could have been the Adrenalize tour, but anyway, things run together. So let me ask you two questions and see if you know. One is, if you know, how did the band get to the stage on the Hysteria tour in the round? And I love the name of the live DVD, in the round in your face. And number two is who is Malcolm Mortimer? Who is Malcolm Mortimer? If you know that, what's the answer to those two things? How did they get to the stage during the Hysteria tour, because it was in the round? And who is Malcolm Mortimer? Who is that? Interesting. Just a couple of little trivias out there. And, if you have to look it up, that's okay too. I'm not going to know. I did last week mention it briefly. I did mention how they got to the stage, but a lot of people like to get involved with this when they found out how they were doing that. A lot of the group, it wasn't Zipline. It's a good guess. And underneath the stage was the 365 Club, which, to my knowledge, I was never there. It was, well, let's just say there was a lot going on with men and women. We'll just say that. That was the party room. And if you listen to any of their documentaries, they don't get real in depth with that, but it's just a lot of nakedness and other things. I mean, that's what that was. These are young guys on the road. Some of them were getting married around this time or had girlfriends, but that was the party room. And they could go down there in the middle of a show during solos, drum stuff, all that. There were people invited into that area and of the female persuasion, and that's what was going on there. So it wasn't Zipline. And there is a caveat to how they got there. One of the members of the band actually would do it a different way sometimes, but most shows they got brought in laundry baskets. There would be a point as the lights are still up, and people thought they were just pushing equipment in. So they're actually in these laundry baskets, and each, I think sometimes two got into one. I think they grouped up. I think that Sav and Joe were in one, or it was because Steve and Phil would always be together. I think it was Sav and Joe. And sometimes Rick Allen would walk in and nobody recognized who he was. So what he did was he put on a fake arm that was holding an empty Budweiser, if I remember right, something like that. And he would put on he made himself look like a redneck. That's the best way I can put it. With the trucker hat, the cigarette hanging out of his mouth, a trucker top, country top shirt with that fake arm holding that, empty beer and blue jeans, and he'd just walk in. People never recognized who he was. He just looked like a guy coming to a show. I didn't know that for a long time. I knew about the baskets. I figured it out myself. I think on stuff like that. It would bug me. That first show, I'm thinking, how'd they get to the stage? There's no backstage. They have underneath, but that's concrete underneath. How do they do that? So by the second time I saw them, I'm really paying attention to this. And then I saw them coming down, and I saw somebody hit the side of it with like their elbow. And I told my wife, I said, that's it. That's how they're getting the band in. They bring them in the baskets. And she's like, how do you know that? I said, well, somebody just put their elbow through the side of that thing. I mean, I could see it, but that's what it was. And then later I found out that even Robert Plant and other people that came to see the band play, they wanted to get involved. And there was a show, I don't remember where it was at, that Robert Plant of Led Zeppelin actually pushed one of those carts in. He made himself look like a roadie. Can you imagine that? Somebody sitting on the aisle seat and here comes these baskets that's got two members of Def Leppard in it, and Robert Plant is pushing it. Can you imagine? You really have to pay attention. They play games like this all the time. Watchman said Bond used to show up at the last minute when the band was on stage. He would stroll in with fans in the front. Well, sure, yeah, and he he was partying. That's why. But I didn't know about the part about Rick Allen until in the last couple of years. I finally heard them talking about that. The rest of the band would talk about it. I just missed that. I never heard that. I don't think at the show I was at that happened because I was really watching them do that. I think I would have kind of recognized a little bit. I may be wrong, but I was really looking at the people too who were pushing them, and I just pay attention to a lot of that stuff. And when a lot of people are just, let's party, they're dancing, singing, drinking beer. I'm the kind of guy, I look at the stinking lot rigging dudes, man. I don't know why I'm that way. The old safety guy, whatever me. I would watch them climb up. I watch them go out to the thing, the rigging and all that stuff. I look at their speakers were in the air. They had some under the stage, obviously, but they had a lot that was suspended, like a lot of groups do nowadays. And then you had the guys that go up and run the lights and stuff. This is a big production. You got lasers going on. You've got the lighting and all that. I watch all that stuff. I watch the roadies break down the previous band's stuff and get to the next band, then break that down and then get to the main event. I watch all that stuff. I watch the side of the stage. I just look for stuff like that. I don't know why I'm a nut like that. I probably shouldn't. It's probably overthinking everything. But I just sit and I like to people watch. So it's like, hey, there's a dude going up. Maybe I don't know. I've always thought maybe I do. Maybe I have a touch of some of that ADHD or something, because I do get distracted by watching people do stuff like that. I was like, oh, I just think about a guy. He climbs up there. I'm thinking he's got no harness on. He sits down in there, and I'm like, wow, what a spot to watch the show. And of course, they have to do those. Nowadays, I would think it's all computerized, but back then, those guys had to set the lighting schedule, which I don't know what it paid, but it's a cool spot to be in. I don't know if it got hot or what, but I'm telling you what, that whole thing moved when they were going up. I mean, I don't think I could handle the hot. I don't think it at all. But it was a great setup. They spent a lot of money on that stage, and I think somebody else used it later because a lot of bands, I don't know if you know this, I bet Watchman does. A lot of bands buy stages from other bands. Once you're done with it, you're kind of done. They will redo it a little bit for what they want. If it's, by the way, it probably needs a lot of welding and stuff. Things have been carried all over the world. But it's instead of having one built, which would cost a lot more, you buy somebody's stage and they make a little bit of money back and you get something cheaper. Than you just fix up the parts that you want. You dress it up different. Nobody knows. I mean, a stage is a stage. There's not a whole lot you can do there. It's different except stuff that you put on top where they come out and all that. Ozzy always had wild stage setups. A lot of bands like that have weird stuff going on where their drum risers are very high in the air. It's crazy. I don't know how you hear each other like that. Even the monitors would be challenging. But it was a great tour. I saw the band several times. I think I'm thinking 6 times now that I saw them on that tour alone. And it was a magical time for me. My son was born in 86, in August of 86. I did lose my best friend in September of that year. He was murdered. So I went through that. This whole thing, I mean, big changes for me in my life. There was just a lot of, the band was back. It made me feel good that they were back. I've always kind of identified with them because I just looked at them as guys in a manufacturing town that just wanted to do something different. And they wanted to get out. They didn't want to work in. And I was working in manufacturing. Later on, I worked in a foundry. So I know what it's like to taste the dust and be up, filthy from that stuff and walk out. You got to take a shower before you go home. I know what that's like. I know what that feels like. And so I identify a little bit with them. They just decided nothing against it. We admire the people that do it. But we don't want to do that. We want to do something different. And Joe Elliott is the driver in that band. There's no doubt. I mean, they would have never made it to where they are without his just passion and drive. He's always thinking. Viv says, all lead singers have an ego and they have to. He said, you have to. He said, Joe Elliott is obviously a lead singer. I mean, Viv says, I don't want to be out front talking like that. He said, Joe is Joe. He's a lead singer. And, he's a huge driver for the band. But it is a very successful band. They've come through a lot of tragedy. And next week we'll talk about the time right after Hysteria, leading up to Adrenalize, the tragedy of Steve Clark. We'll spend some time there. And Vivian Campbell coming into the band. That'll be part 4 of Def Leppard. Thanks for stopping in. We can talk about whatever you want. I'm not going to jump off yet. Little people. I don't know if I'm supposed to say that word. I might get struck. The little person that was in Star Wars. He played Ewok and R2-D2. He worked for Black Sabbath on the tour with Ian Gillan, singing the roadies. The roadies would leave him hanging from lighting or lock them in road cases. Oh, yeah. The hijinks on rock tours are legendary. And I don't know that any band has never not done it, but some really go crazy on it. And they say the last night of a tour, they try their best to really mess up the opening act. I remember there's a video of Van Halen coming out half dressed. And who was on the stage? I can't remember the band, but they just keep on playing. And they come out running all over stage. There is a story in Sebastian Bach's book from Skid Row, and when they were on their tour with Bon Jovi, had some moments. Bon Jovi's brother, what was his name? Robert. He if you listen to Sebastian, he says he's a jerk. They got into it a couple of times on the tour, and apparently it didn't. The last night hijinks. I think they decided to get the band back or something, and they got really mad. It was an ugly ending. I think John eventually was like, "Yeah, it's fine." His brother was mad, and he's like, "You'll never play with us again," or something like that. It was pretty ugly stuff, and I don't remember what it was. Ozzy dumped salad dressing into Rudy Sarzo's hair at a dinner to kind of initiate him being in the band, and Sarzo had to run back down to the hotel, and he took like 30 showers to get all this stuff out. Of course, he didn't like it, but he didn't pitch a fit, and Ozzy said he can stay because he can take a joke. I mean, I think he would have fired him if he couldn't. I mean, Ozzy was constantly playing jokes, everything from defecating in people's car seats and you name it. That guy, crazy out there on the dope and stuff, was doing a lot of crazy stuff. AC/DC has some elaborate stage setups. They use real cannons, but they blew holes in the ceiling of a few arenas, and they are one of the ones that yes, I did, and I know it may sound crazy to you, but it's Love and Affection. It is my favorite song, and there's reasons for that I said, and that's developed over time, but that is my favorite song. It's the forgotten single that should have been released, and I love that song. And I don't know what it is. It's for me personally. There's a part of me that I just love that song. And that's not a knock against any song on the album, but it's the closing song, and on that, at least the first pressing, they did some changes later a little bit, but that is my favorite song. It has an odd time signature to it as it starts. It is very unique that way, and I don't remember another Leppard song doing that. It just the way it starts. If you go listen to it, just listen to how that song sort of starts. It's weird to me, but I don't know. I just like the song. I like the lyric content. I love the guitar work in that. I just love that song. It's hard to describe for me, but that is my favorite. What's your favorite, Broski, if you have one? And it's hard, it's like naming my favorite scripture. It's hard. I like all the songs on the album. I would never say that Excitable is my favorite. I like the song a lot, but I would never say that. If I was going to say a second song, it's going to be Hysteria. If I'm going to say a third, it's probably going to be, it's really hard. I would say Armageddon It and Rocket. Sugar's probably 5 for me, and I like the song, but it's just not my favorite. But they're all really close. Run Right I like a lot too. I've really come. I like Don't Shoot Shotgun. I like some stuff in there, but it's more towards the back end of that too, as far as likes. Women I really like, but it's a slow building song. So I would say that Love and Affection, Hysteria. What I say? Oh, Animal. I love Animal. That's when I first heard the album. Animal was my favorite. That was my favorite song, and it's still way up there for me because your tastes change. You know, you just sort of. So that's what I would say. 10 years ago, I'd probably tell you something else. But where I'm at right now, I would say that it's Love and Affection. But Armageddon, it's way up there too. And some of them I really just like the video in conjunction with the song, and it made me like the song even more. I don't know. Maybe that's not even fair to say, but it's true. I love the video to Hysteria. I love the video to Armageddon. I do. Love Dots. Wow, it's really hard to pick, man. Um, it's really hard to pick. The thing about Love Dots was they never practiced the song. They didn't know it was going to be a hit. Didn't know it was going to be a single. So that song releases. It's an instantaneous hit. I think they were in Detroit, Michigan, and they had to go in a studio for 2 days to figure out how to play that song live. And they were the whole first day is a disaster. They said, guys, we're messing this up. And it took them some time to flesh that out. It's the guitar parts mainly. They have it interchanges a lot back and forth, and they just had a really hard time with the timing on that song, and it was hard for them to get practiced up on that. So that's another unique thing about that. Um, the Around that time, Steve and Phil became known as the Terror Twins, and that meant they were playing jokes on everybody. They were the jokesters in the band. They were always playing jokes, so that's why they were called the Terror Twins. And there's a great guitar magazine back in the day. I don't know which it was. I don't remember if it was Guitar World or which one it was, where they feature Phil and Steve, and they're in their. They would walk around after the show in their Def Leppard robes and these big old cushy, furry house slippers, and it's a picture of them in that with those slippers and the guitars hanging around their neck. I've still got that somewhere. Hello from Germany. God bless you. We're talking about music, mainly been talking about Def Leppard's Hysteria tonight, but we're kind of just anything now. But that magazine cover, by the way, I don't know if anybody buys magazines anymore, but I used to buy a lot of rock magazines. And I've still got that somewhere where they're standing there, the Terror Twins. I remember the background was white, and it was just it's one of the coolest things that I've ever seen. You had that issue with the bare feet and robes and stuff. Yeah, they sold a lot. They sold a lot of magazines off that. By the way, tonight wasn't it tonight the Kennedy Honors? Wasn't it tonight that Kiss was going to be playing? How sad that Ace Frehley couldn't obviously be there. Wasn't that tonight? Guitar for the practicing musician. What magazines did you buy? I bought Hit Parader, Guitar World. Um, what's that one that came out of Europe? Hammer. That was harder to get, a little bit more expensive. But I used to buy all the rock magazines. God, I can't remember them all now. What was the lady that was at Hit Parader for so long? She was well known in the industry. I bet Watchman knows. She used to do a lot of stuff, but I would always go to the magazine sections when I was at the store, and I bought sports and music. That's what I did. More music than sports, believe it or not. Circus, yes, Circus Kerrang! What I was always thinking of. Hit Parader. When you was a teen, I bought every one of them, especially Circus and Hit Parader. When I could get Kerrang, I did. But there is a magazine called Hammer something, isn't it? I think it sells. something like that. And then there would be some that I never heard of before. And I'd only bomb if there was a Def Leppard. It was in a magazine. I bought it. I was collecting. I'll show you a picture disc I have next week of Steve Clark, as I'm going to talk about Steve Clark next week. And I want to show you that I have. And I never got rid of my Leppard stuff. I always held on to that, but I got rid of a lot of stuff that I had. But that was like my band, man. I still have some other stuff too, but that's mainly what I have. And the collectible stuff, I think I may have sold some of that, but I still have most of that. I'll see what I got. I'll try to have that. I'll probably have to dust it off. I've just got it put up in storage. It's just something I put away, and it's a lot. It's a very personal, emotional thing for me because things that happened. My best friend being murdered, Steve Clark dying. I hated that, man. I was driving down the highway when that came over the radio that Steve Clark died, and I'll talk mostly about this next week. I cannot express to you how hard that hit me, and it still does to this day. And I'm not going to go into it tonight, but that was so very hard, so very, very hard for me. I said it'll never be the same, and I love them. I love Vivian, but it's not the same. It just can't be because there can't be but one Steve Clark. Then when I started playing guitar, I got a sub to guitar for the practicing musician. I had the prototype first issue, had the chords and riffs in front, and the leads were in the back. How cool, man! How cool! You still got that in the vault somewhere? You still got the. I don't know why I'm getting these. I don't know. I got Facebook's popping up weird stuff. I've had weird stuff going on. Hello, Cook, over on the Facebook side. I don't know why my Facebook does not come into the stream, but I want to say hey to him and everybody else that's watching. Thank you. I do see you. I just have to look in the chat on Facebook. Music is special in our lives, and it touches us in lots of ways. And I'm a Christian, and some of my Christian friends may not even understand why I do this show. I am a born again believer, and I love the Lord Jesus Christ. And I don't go to shows anymore. I'm not in that scene. But this is a part of my life, and I just don't throw away parts of my life. This is all this stuff helps shape me to where I'm at, and these are things that are iconic to me. And I don't glorify the drug use or the alcohol or anything. And yeah, some of the stuff is a little racy, lyrics and stuff like that. And I never liked the imagery of some bands and stuff they have, but I'm just past all that worrying about what people think. And I'm not knocking anybody. I'm just saying that some people might not even understand, even in my circles, why you do a show like that? They think that every podcast show that I do, that I'm supposed to be preaching or something. And I'll just let that lay where it's at. If I have let them down, I've let them down. But this is who I am. I mean, me and my wife, we went to a lot of shows together. My kids grew up. I mean, I took my sisters as teenagers to Leppard. My kids, both my sons, love Def Leppard because I was playing this stuff. I was having cookouts, playing the songs. We didn't go to shows and act stupid or anything with that, and it was more of a family thing, and it's just a part of who I am. It tells a story. It's like reading a book. I don't just read the Bible. I read books on all kinds of things. I've showed you some of the books that I'm reading right now. Anyway, that I just feel like I should say that because sometimes I feel like I get this little bit of like, why are you? I almost feel it's like I can feel it. Like, why are you doing that? I do share Jesus Christ. I do preach and share the word on the podcast. It was never meant to be a full-on missionary. Although I share Jesus in everything I do, it's not that. And so some people may tune in. They go, I don't know why he's doing that. It's okay. If I disappoint you, pray for me. But it's the same way. Why do I watch the Georgia Bulldogs? I'm a fan. Watching Georgia has nothing to do with being a Christian either. Although some people would disagree that it is a religion. I don't know. But, I think that's where legalism comes in a little bit. And again, I after my rededication to Christ, I stayed away. I didn't go to shows. I went to some Christian shows, and I don't want to be in that environment. I don't miss the one thing that I will say that I don't miss about that time frame. Two things. One was the drinking. I don't miss that, and I was so ready to drop that when I was drinking. And I quit in the mid '90s. To give you an now, I was never falling down drunk or not like that. But being honest, I'm fully transparent. I'll tell you about my life. I think it's all a part of my story. And so, did I drink when I went to some of these shows? Yes, I did. Did I go to some and were completely sober? Yes. Uh, but I was never falling down drunk. I mean, a lot of times I was the driver. So most times, to be honest, I rode the shows with very few people. Usually, I was the driver, so I didn't do those things. But that I don't miss at all. And I'm not judging anybody. If you drink, I'm not judging you, man. Or lady. I'm not. I'm just telling you my story. And the other thing I don't miss, I developed, and it's something I had to really watch because two things happened. I found out about myself. Number one was I found out I have a little bit of a problem with uh, having to have albums. I got to where I was buying too much. And I knew I had a problem when I looked up one day and I had bought like 8 albums and I hadn't even opened them up. And I went, whoa, I got to check that. So, what fed that was getting into the collectible record deals, going to these conventions and stuff. My wife would cringe because I spent too much money and I realized it and I felt bad about it. Now, and I didn't blow our light bill money or nothing like that. I made extra money for it. I would work overtime and build up the money to take to the show, to the conventions. But I realized I had a little bit of a problem with that. And years later, when I quit doing all that, you have to watch those things that are addictive to you. I got into the sports stuff heavier. I started collecting cards and memorabilia and stuff that, and I had to check it. And so when I buy stuff now, I don't really buy anything like that ever. Um, I'll buy some books to support the authors because I want to read the book and I have them on the show. But I don't buy music anymore. And I just don't do it. Um, so let me get to your comments, and I don't want to miss these because I think these were. I appreciate you putting these in here. Let's see. I threw it all away. Remember me telling you about? Oh yeah, all the music and porn when I was born again. I did the same thing, man. I didn't have porn, but I had. I remember my buddy Cook. Cook, you're listening. Remember this? And Cook's a Christian. If you're watching, I know he's in Facebook side. Do you remember Cook when you came to my house and I was packing up my CDs in the duffel bag? And you come in and you said, "What are you doing?" I said, "I'm getting rid of it all." This is a true story. And Cook is always a big Aerosmith fan. And I believe I gave you my Aerosmith CDs. Uh, and I gave them to him, and he said, "Well, what?" He said something about selling them. Why you got, blah blah blah. And I remember that he kind of wept. It hit him really hard, and I remember he said, "Feels like something's died." I said, "It has." I'm not that guy anymore. And he got up and ran out, and that was hard. That was hard. He it hurt him. It's just like I can't deal with this, man. And that was the time that me and Cook didn't spend a lot of time together for a long time. That's just the way it happens. You kind of change. And now Cook, Cook is. I mean, we're both on that. We're on the Jesus train. Amen. But if you're still out there, Cook, and you remember that, hey, Curtis Martin, I see you, Michael. Appreciate all of you watching. Again, I just want to make that disclaimer. I'm not promoting hedonism or anything else. I'm telling a story, and this is a part of that. And I love music, so if, as my wife would say, if you be mad at me, you be mad at me. I mean, what are you going to do? Love me. That's what my wife would say. Just love me. I love. Let's see. Blah, blah, blah. I tell war stories because it's a testimony of what Jesus brought me out of. Absolutely. Hey, I want to tell you, when I went, a buddy of mine invited me down, and you know this place, Watchman. I don't even have to ask because you're in the general area. I was going to Atlanta, and I was going to a lot of clubs and listening to bands like around the time that the Black Crows were coming up in the Atlanta scene. I was there listening to a band called Chain Gang and some other ones. And anyway, somebody invited me to the masquerade. And I said, what the heck is that? Oh, it's a great place, Dave. So, Watchman, do you remember the masquerade? I think it's still there. Do you remember the masquerade? Here's what happened when I went to the masquerade. 3 levels. It's an old factory. So the middle level is like the night I went, they were celebrating a 10-year anniversary or something, and they were cooking steaks out on the deck. And I remember eating steak, and they have music popped in, and it's like the middle area, and it's called Purgatory. I'm like, Purgatory? What the heck? So they play a lot of bands up in the top level. They call that, I don't like it, heaven. Heaven. Well, I said, wait a minute. Because they said 3 levels, Dave. Heaven, hell, purgatory. I went, curiosity, man. Curiosity. I went down. I hate to even say it that way. You do go down. You're going down steps, and you go to this room that's called hell. I just honesty. I mean, I'm just being honest. And I went down there, and I never stepped off the stairs. I took one look at this place, and I was like, ain't no way. I remember there was a girl on a swing, a pink swing, who was dressed crazy, swinging back and forth from the rafters. I went, yeah, I'm out. I don't know what's going on down here. I don't want to know. I ate the steak. It was free. And I went up to the 3rd level. And I don't remember who we heard that night, but we went there to see a band. Watchman goes on to say, I loved collecting imports and picture discs. I have some rare stuff. I had some rare stuff. It gets addictive, man. It really does. Because if Jesus can save me, you have hope. Amen, brother. Duck Mojo. He says, yes, I remember. I met Rudy Sarzo there when we went to see Ingwe. Oh, that's a pretty cool memory. Yes, the top is heaven, the basement is hell. Crazy. And you saw George Lynch there too. But yeah. Yeah, you want to stay out of hell at the masquerade. I can say that first part is, amen, that'll preach. You want to stay out of hell because that's no place that anybody wants to go. But is it still there? Watch, because like I say, I have not been in that scene since 1995. Somewhere in there, 95. So 30 years ago, almost 31 years ago. So, that's been a long time. And I just don't, but it's just a part of my life. And I have a lot of memories like you do, and we're not promoting those things, but it is a part of it. I mean, and Watchman was a musician. I mean, he played bands and stuff. I didn't do that. Yes, and they have shows there all the time. Okay. God, it may have the record for the longest standing place in Atlanta. I mean, my goodness, even 96 Rock didn't make it. What's Z93? All those old stations. What was some of the other places? I mean, even the Lakewood has changed names. They call it something crazy now. The Omni is gone. All the shows. I guess Midtown is still there. Small place, Midtown, in Midtown. I guess it's still there. And there used to be a place a lot of bands would go. I never saw them there. There was another place. It was like a mini amphitheater or smaller place that was up on the I want to say northwestern side of Atlanta. I could be wrong about this because I never went there. Yes, I like bluegrass. I actually love gospel bluegrass. I use AI to make them all the time. I love it. I love bluegrass. My wife loves bluegrass. We grew up listening to, and we still do. When we go to the little area, the two towns, War Trace. We never actually go to War Trace. We go to the other town. Okay, they have a little. I'll think of it in a minute. But there's a little diner there, and they play bluegrass and stuff in there. We love to go there and eat and listen to bluegrass. So yeah, I see. I remember the Metroplex in Atlanta. I remember the name. I don't think I was ever there. Never there. My wife played at Metroplex with her band Fantasia, opening for Megadeth. I do remember Fantasia now. Not a lot, but a little bit. That's pretty amazing. Opening for Megadeth. Wow. So, you know, what I do a lot with my own stories is set the hook. I'll set the hook and share Jesus when I do those things. But it's a lot of memories. I mean, I went to a lot of shows. I mean, a lot of places. A lot of from the small to the big. I went to a lot of shows. I used to go a whole lot. I mean, there was a time frame there when I went to. I think about every 2 months I was going to a show. Sometimes twice a month, but the way I worked and stuff, and just the money, I would do several a year. With friends. The last rock show that I ever saw, believe it or not, and it was not a good night. And it was a message from God to me to get out. Was Metallica in Nashville. I was like, I'm not supposed to be here. Everything went bad that night. Everything went wrong. And it was God speaking to me. You're done, buddy. And I knew it. Cook, you were there that night. I don't know, Cook, you still, yeah, go Georgia. I don't know, Cook, if you're still out there, buddy. You remember that night? Me, you, Jack, and who else was it? Jeff? He's deceased now. Everything went wrong that night. It's the only time in my life that I ever almost went to jail at a show or in anything because I was never that guy. But I got into an argument with a security guard who got smart with me, and I don't know, it hit me the wrong way, and that started the downfall the whole night. Everything went downhill, everything. And I can remember, Cook, if you remember, we were standing there. Two of our friends have left the show. They're both not feeling good. They're hurting. Things are bad. And me and Cook look at each other, and we both basically said the same things. What are we doing here? And I said, let's get out of here. We left the show early. We loaded up, and we got out, and that was it. I never went back to another rock show. Saw some contemporary stuff like Newsboys, a few of those, but mainly, just church stuff, Never again. I don't miss it. I don't. It's just a part of my life. You say you saw the Black Crow. I never saw the Black Crows, by the way, even though I was all over that scene down there. I saw the Black Crows in Piedmont Park. I used to do a lot of, I guess they still do, Piedmont Park, a lot of shows. In Atlanta, MTV was filming. I was dancing down front. The crowd parted to let me dance. Jeff Cease, guitarist, was laughing at me. How about that? That's funny. What happened at the show? You know how when you go to a show back in those days, the radio station would play a pre-show of their songs. So we were listening to the Metallica songs headed in. And full disclosure here, truth, just giving you the facts of the deal. They had some. These weren't police. They were, and I'm not putting down security. I do security. They would not let you sit in your car. So I said, let's just sit here, listen to this, then we'll go in. Well, these security guards came by and they hollered at us, and they said, "Get out of your car and get in the show, or you'll leave, or you'll be arrested." And I was like, wow, I'd never heard that in a show, by the way, ever, that you went to, ever. And so what we were doing, we said, well, full disclosure here, let's finish our beer. I wasn't driving. And we'll listen to this last song and then we'll go. So I saw them. The next parking area was kind of up above us, and those two same guys rode by and they looked down and saw us. And I told him, I said, guys, because I'm not that guy. I said, guys, those guys have seen us. They're going to come back. Let's start getting out and going. So we did. We're getting out of the car. We're locking up. Well, this little 5 foot nothing guard comes up, and he just lights into me. He blamed me for the whole thing. Like, he's like, I thought I told you to get in the show. First of all, I don't like being talked to like that. I'm a grown man. And I said, we're going. He goes, you were supposed to be going the last time. And I said, we're going. And I was trying my best. I even had my back to him. And he goes, you're a hard A, aren't you? I mean, he just lit on me. And I turned around and I said, what is your problem? And he said something, and I took a step. And I'll tell you right now, my intention was to deck him. It had nothing to do with anything other than I didn't like him the way he talked to me. And Cook, I don't think Cook's out there. He would have commented. He was there. Jack Fee grabbed me. He picks me up and says, what's wrong with you? Like, man, dude, you're never that guy. Like, I'm usually the guy that would get mad, get in a fight. And he like grabs me and he says, he's going. And I said, and I remember him hollering, like, you better get a hold of your friend or he's going to be spending the night in jail. Oh, I was furious. So I went in and I'm like Mr. Politician. I'm shaking hands with fans. Hey, how y'all doing? You here for the show? And they say, yeah, man, rock and roll or something. I say, well, you better watch security around here because we won't mention those words. And I remember our friend that's deceased, I remember we went up to buy a shirt. I was talking to the people about, and everybody I talked to, I'd bring up security. And Jeff said, will you stop, man? Let it go. And I said, I can't. I'm furious. But I did finally let it go. But that was the signal. Everything was going downhill. But I was threatened with jail that night. As far as beating somebody in a real fight, which I don't like to really promote that, yes, in school. And one other time, somebody said something really bad about my mama to my face. And I don't care. I'm a preacher. I'm gonna tell you right now. If somebody did that right now, we'd be out on the ground. I don't care if somebody don't like that or not. You talk about my wife, my mama to my face or something, say some trashy stuff about them. It's on. You can pray for me, but it's on. You know, I ain't putting up with that. I might get beat. I might. But you're going to have to really, that's your mama, man. You don't put up with that. That's the code, man. You don't talk about somebody's mama, right? You don't do that. Watchman says we played a show with Newsboys at Stone Mountain. Listen, what's happened to them? That is horrible. Horrible. I don't know that they'll ever be able to play again because those guys knew that the lead singer was complicit in the sin and they ignored it. And I think their days as a band are really over. That's right, man. The riot of fellowship. You got it, baby. It's on like, and I've said that it's on like Donkey Kong. And I'll say it right now. You touch one of my kids, say something about my wife or my mama to my face like that. I'm not saying I don't like the phrase "I'll forget I'm a Christian." I will say I remember I'm a Christian. I'm telling you right now, I'll deck you. I might be praying for you afterwards, but I'll deck you. I ain't putting up with that. Who puts up with that? If you do, something's wrong with you. I mean, come on. You just don't do that. There's a code. You don't do that. Anyway, I'm just being honest. I don't care. That's what I like about podcasts. I mean, either people hate it or, they hate you or they like you or they think you're stupid or they think you're great. I don't care. Yeah, he wasn't singing. I just thought of that, which I liked him he was from DC Talk, right? And then he did Tate. Michael Tate did Tate. A great album. And then apparently he's had a problem with those things for over 20 years. So does it go all the way back to DC Talk? I don't know, man. I mean, wow. It's horrible, man. It's absolutely horrible. but man has fallen. And I don't know why people look at, and you've said this before, don't look at these guys and think they're perfect, because they're not, just because they sing in a Christian band. They sinners. And but this one's bad because it's got some it's ugly. It criminal even, I think, if I remember right. There could be some criminality there. Because they was when they're underage or so, I don't remember. It's a horrible story, and they've been playing for a long time. I saw them with. I didn't like the opening band. This was in Nashville. We took a youth group to Nashville. Never been. I was never inside the arena in Nashville till this night, and it was Newsboys and Audio Adrenaline. Remember them? They had to quit because the lead singer's voice just was going out. And Super Chick, which I hated the name. And I'll be honest with you, I didn't care for their music. I almost walked out. But I knew that Newsboys, I was there really to hear Newsboys. Never saw, or even, I don't even know if I'd heard of Audio Adrenaline, and I did like this. I liked some of their stuff, and I was there to see Newsboys. Uh, all of them have had solo work, but that band has been around for a long time. Uh, Watchman says, playing with Christian bands at festivals, I was not impressed. Now, disciple, they were real ones. They preached from the stage. Amen. Amen. What is the band that is classified? They are classified as a Christian band, but they don't like the designation. What is that band's name? They go by acronym. Um, anyway, I've heard. I don't know why that's such a. I don't know why. If you're Christian, why do you worry about the label? Who cares? Oh, really? Well, they were probably doing a tour together, man. I mean, you play it. I was probably on the same tour. Probably the same tour. I don't remember one song by Super Chick. I just wasn't a fan. Me and my pastor looked at each other and were like, POD. I think that is it. POD. Don't they sort of don't like that they're labeled Christian? I mean, I don't. Well, you sort of present yourself that way. I don't know. I really don't know on that one. That's just a. I don't know. I just always felt that kind of odd. That and didn't. Who's the guy, was it Creed, the lead singer? What, his daddy, a preacher or something? And anyway, he walked away, then came back. And there's been a lot of issues there. I don't know. Listen, if you are what you are, say who you are. Don't play games with it. My pastor taught POD how to pray. They stayed in his house when they played a show. Okay, awesome. A lot of these groups are made up of people from lots of different spiritual backgrounds, even if they're Christian, and they could be a lot of different beliefs. But I'm going to tell you, there's a lot of songs out there that really touch me. For Newsboys, it was "Entertaining Angels." I mean, I love that song. I love Third Day. I love Third Day. I love that band. I love their stuff. That album, wow. What that one. Uh, that is, talk about an album that is. We will talk about Third Day in this series. Soundstage is not meant to just be rock, by the way. I just started out with that. We'll be talking about all different kinds of music, country to everything, even the Bee Gees. I don't care. We'll talk about it all. But and I never saw them in concert either. He said they didn't know how to pray, so I'm not sure how Christian POD was. Okay, maybe that's the thing. I read stories about it. I'll tell you something that really bothered me for a long time. Way back in the day, this would have been my oldest son was a baby. He wasn't very old, a couple years old, 3 years old, something like that. Couple 3 years old. And we went to a Kroger, and while my wife was shopping, I went to the magazine section, and I think I was reading a Rolling Stone magazine. And there was a story in there about a kid who was a huge Iron Maiden fan. This was I want to think, outside of Denver, Colorado, wintertime. And he even had Eddie on a poster out on his bedroom door. The daddy was a traveling salesman, or he had to travel for his job. The little brother, him, and mom are at home. Unbeknownst to all of the family, this young man who was very young at the time, I want to think he was like 9 years old or something. He made a pact. This is all in the magazine article. I went back and looked at the story many times. He made a pact with the devil. He had journals where he wrote. And I don't know if he heard voices or what was going on with this kid, but he murdered his mom as she was putting clothes in the dryer, washer one. He actually sent his brother back to the bedroom. He actually didn't kill him. And he tried to get in the car. It was snowing. And he tried to back out. He got the car stuck. So he just left. He ran off in the woods and he died. Froze to death. Daddy gets home. His car's stuck in the snow. He goes in and finds his wife. He, his youngest son is alive, and in the car he left all the stuff behind that he had made this agreement. Horrible story. I don't know if he's on medications. I don't know where that came from. But a 9-year-old boy, horrible story. I remember walking around, and I'm just, it's one of those things where I walked around the store and read the magazine while my wife shopped. I didn't buy it. I did that a lot. I just flipped through magazines while she was shopping. And that story really affected me for a long time. And I really think God was using it to really speak to me about the dangers of some of this stuff, at the time. Just being honest. You saw third day at Stegman Coliseum at UGA. I've never been in Stegman Coliseum. I'd like to go watch a basketball game there. Yeah, it's a horrible story, man. It really touched my heart, my soul, my spirit, everything. And at that time, I wasn't living the way I should. It was years later when I really rededicated my life. But those kinds of things really started affecting me. And I was like, I was like, I don't, why is this happening? Did I know that Iron Maiden drummer Nico McBrain is a Christian? He has quit. I didn't know that. I don't really follow them. I've listened. I never saw them in concert. I have saw one of their shows on video. There's some stuff in that I don't care for. I guess my favorite person in the band is probably Steve Harris, just because I like the way he plays bass. But I didn't know that. It is a terrible, terrible story. It broke my heart, man. I mean, and I get it. Listen, and this idea of freedom, and when Ozzy and Dee Snider and all them were brought before Congress, and you remember the 4 kids that went into the garage and they, put the exhaust into the car and off themselves, and they were blaming it on the song "Suicide Solution" from Ozzy's song, and those were things that really bothered me. It really, really bothered me. Iron Maiden is what got me into history. Interesting. Curious. Why them? Because a lot of their things does have a historical context, wars and stuff like that. I guess I'm assuming. But yeah, you could say that about U2 or others. They look at things that have went on and they kind of write songs and themes around that. Absolutely. God, I've been on for 2 hours. I didn't realize it. You get to talk about music and the Lord, and I'll sit all day. I do need to get off here. I enjoy it. Thanks for stopping by, really. And next week we'll be on, and we'll go to part 4. And I do want to talk about that time frame of Steve Clark and the disasters again of trying to get an album done, which become Adrenalize, and Vivian Campbell of Dio, River Dogs, Shadow Kings, Sweet Savage. Did I get that right? Joining Def Leppard. Interesting time frame. Pat Robertson on the 700 Club showed Iron Maiden Number of the Beast album, read the lyrics, and I went and bought the album that weekend. Yeah, there was a lot. I mean, those imageries there. They put up a lot of different kinds of stuff. But there was a music was put on trial. And who was the lady? Tipper Gore was wanting the stickers put on all the music to warn of harmful lyrics and stuff like that. They were looking at the backward masking, and it was what was that? Late '80s, early '90s, I guess, maybe late '80s, where she really started that. It was a war. It was a full on war between her, the I don't know if it's fair to say the Christian Coalition, but the musicians, and it was what is art, and that's what went on trial. D. Snyder, I remember he's talked about it a lot. I don't remember who else was called up. But yeah, it's funny. It's D. Snyder. They're getting back together. 50 years as a band. Wow, that's how long they've been around, and they're going to do some shows, I guess. But yeah, anyway, we all have music. Hey, I saw a lot of country shows and a lot of other kind of shows and gospel shows and Southern gospel. I got a lot of interest, man. I love music, and it's great. Music is music sets a point in time for you, and music touches you in ways. That's why it's so powerful. And you have to be careful, yes, because music can touch you in ways you shouldn't. I mean, music can be influential to make you want to do things you should. You have to be careful with it. But singer from Iron Maiden has flown into war in the countries to rescue UK citizens for the RAF top brass. So the one they have now, Bruce Dickinson, you're talking about, or one of the other ones? Which singer? Because they've had a couple, three singers, right? I mean, he's with them now, Bruce Dickinson, but I don't know if it's him you're talking about, but that's interesting. Um, at the end of the day, they will say that it's art, and all of that's just for effects, which is what Alice Cooper would say. I'm not that guy off stage. I'm not Alice. He flies for British Airlines. Okay, it wouldn't be Bruce then. It'd be one of the other guys. I can't remember their name. I don't know their history like a lot of bands. I know a little bit, not a lot. Um, yeah. Sorry, I said say too much. Appreciate you listening in. Appreciate your support. Give us a like, follow, share. Thanks for coming in from Germany. We've had two from Germany today. That's awesome. Or what was last night? I think man one today. I am going to replay the show with Mary Fagan Keene. I will do that again. I haven't done it yet, but I'm going to try to I'm going to set that up tonight to run. I'll set it up to run some different times this week. And I told her I would do that, and I want to get that out there. For tomorrow, we have the morning show, the Cornbread Man morning show. I didn't know that. Yeah, Bruce, he flies for airlines when he's not doing Maiden. It's Bruce Dickinson, he flies the band. I didn't know that. I didn't know that because I don't know a lot about him. And I didn't know that about the flying part. I didn't know that. That's interesting. Highly interesting, honestly, that he's flying your plane. Crazy. But tomorrow, the Cornbread Man morning show. Tomorrow night, I have to look on the schedule. I'm trying to think of what I do because we done the racing and all yesterday. I'll have to look. I don't remember what's tomorrow night, but Thursday we are going to have a morning show on Christmas Day, and me and Paul will be doing Wolf Nation and probably Cornbread Nation on Christmas night. And if I have time, the history show. I might do the history show tomorrow because I think it's going to be easier for me to get in, but we'll see. We'll see. And this will be part 4 of the Battle of Chickamauga, and I'm going to cover George Thomas, the Rock of Chickamauga. That's going to be the main thing that I cover. And say Merry Christmas to everybody. The voice still sounds great, the human siren. Yeah, man. Merry Christmas to everybody. Have a safe Christmas, a blessed Christmas. Remember, Jesus is the reason for the season, and without him, I am nothing. And football's out there. There's going to be a lot of Georgia's going to be coming up and playing here soon, and all these great games we like to watch. But take time to pray for those that there's a lot of people need prayer, and pray for my wife, my son, my youngest son. I'd appreciate it. Pray for a lot. We know a lot of people need prayer. God knows their names. Thank you for your support. Thank you. I appreciate this online community. and give us a follow so you can keep up with us. And we'll try to keep putting out interesting shows. And thank you for also following. A lot of you have been following. Um, thank you, Jesus. That's right. A lot of you have been going over and listening to what I think are amazing people, and I know you're seeing that as well. Killer Carl, James at Empty Pockets, and yes, Kim at Kim's Coffee Talk. The oh my goodness, the Angry Conservative 1981. I highly recommend all these. If they say something that you don't like, you don't have to listen because sometimes they do. I'm just full disclosure. Sometimes they say words and phrases that I may be up. By the way, I may be up on New Year's Eve on James's show briefly. I doubt I can stay the whole show because it's probably going to go a little ways I don't want it to go. But I did say I'm going to stop by. We're going to talk about some crazy music stories. So, Watchman, if you're available, you might want to pop in the chat. And Broski, whoever, because he mentioned that he contacted me today. And he said, he likes talking music. He's another one of those guys. And he said, I got some crazy music concert stories. So he said, I think I'm going to talk about some of that New Year's Eve. So just so you know, Empty Pockets Podcast, all these are on Rumble. They're on other things as well, but mainly Rumble. And if you don't have a Rumble channel, please get one. Promise you need that. And I'm so thankful that nothing has struck our video with Mary Fagan Keene. I was worried about that because of the themes of that are nowadays you just never know. I wasn't worried about Rumble. I was worried about some others. So far, so good. We did get kicked off of the one. I didn't go back in because they don't store the video anyway, and it would have been choppy. But it is out there and will always be out there on X and YouTube and Rumble. The others take them down eventually, but those three, keep them out there. Go watch that video and I'll re-air it. And we've got other things coming. So have a great night. God bless. And let's go out. This is a new song. I've got a couple of 3 new ones, and this is new for the sound stage. So talk about a voice. You think this guy kind of sounds like Bruce a little bit, maybe, or someone else. Yes, Watchman, it really was. And thank y'all for the support on that. And she will be back. And I'm going to tell you, like I said this morning, I had 30 minutes or an hour of wind down after that interview. Me and Paul had a really, really heart-to-heart talk about some things in our lives and people we know. And that story, it touched us both. And you obviously saw how it touches her all these years later. Y'all pray for her. She's fighting a political machine, and she needs our support. She needs our prayers. If you can help her, buy the book, go on her site, just support. And I think she took our Barry or whoever made the idea for the email. She wrote that down. She absolutely says I need to do that. So I just want to help her, give her ideas. She's amazing. I think the world of her. And she really did not. There's things she didn't cover yet, I know. So yeah, we cannot let those things get covered up. Dang right. We got to make sure that justice is done for those people that are at this point getting away with it, right? Even stuff was released today and the current thing we're dealing with, they still hold back stuff. This thing was all supposed to be released. What's going on? But anyway, I'll keep talking all night. So I'll see you in the morning, bright and early. And we'll be on Christmas Eve. And I'm going to go get me a honey baked ham. Well, they're expensive, but I sure like it. And probably a little bit of shopping left to do in the morning. And just getting ready, cooking tomorrow as well, getting ready for Thursday. It's a great week, great time. Glad to be off, glad to be here. And like I said, God bless y'all. God bless America. God bless America. Take care.
Live from the shed. Yeah.